miss a single moment of the next hour. Get ready to have your ideas about sexuality, love, and relationships blown wide open. It's time to get educated, entertained, and enlightened, as well as sexually empowered. You have now tuned into the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show. Now, here's your host, Tanya Diamond.
Hi, everybody. I am so incredibly excited to be here. And right here beside me is one of my good friends and student, Craig Sigl.
Hi, Tanya.
Is this great or what?
I'm just blown away already, and we haven't even gotten into the content yet.
I know. It's amazing. And yes, we are talking about sex in the middle of the afternoon. Somebody asked me about that this morning. They said, you're going to talk about sex while it's daylight?
Ooh.
I know, scary stuff. Yes, indeed. We're going to be talking about Tantra love, sex, and intimacy, and what all those things actually mean. And Craig, you're going to help me out because, you know, I do a lot of hand gestures, and, of course, they can't see those.
Oh, yeah.
So every once in a while you can say, oh, she's flapping her arms so excitedly now. Woohoo! So, Craig, just say what it is you're here to help me do today.
Well, let me just start off by how I met you, and that might give the listeners an idea of what's in store here.
And why you're so important to be here.
Exactly. And I will tell everybody I'm just an average guy in this area. I just had the same knowledge, or lack of thereof, for many years, until one day I met Tanya at the Northwest Women's Show and heard a few things, and you folks will hear these things as well. And I said, I need to know what you know. I got just a few tidbits, things that sort of blew me away and went against everything I had been taught, everything about what's supposed to happen in the bedroom. But even more shocking to me were the things that contribute to what happens in the bedroom outside of the bedroom, and just in average daily life. This is where I was really drawn to, and the folks are going to learn some amazing things along those lines.
And what he's talking about there is most people think of sex as something that they do on occasion. And they don't understand that sex is actually a luxury, not a luxury in our lives, I'm sorry. It's actually an integral part of our lives and something that can't just be put off till you're in the mood. And it has to do with confidence in our lives, keeping depression away, keeping illness away, and so many other things. But
it's intertwined in our whole lives is what I got from you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about techniques, and that's what you're talking about.
Exactly.
These people come up to me all the time saying, oh, my God, you're the sex guru. You know everything there is about sex.
Tell me the right moves.
That's right. What can I do every time? It's like, well, I can tell you what you can do every time, and that's actually connect. And people go, well, yeah, I am connecting. And I'm like, you know, here's my hand gesture.
Right.
And it's like, no, not connecting like that. But coming from your soul and your heart. And that's what Tantra is actually about. Because, you know, people now say, ooh, Tantra, are you doing that erotic massage stuff? No, not really. Tantra is about connecting with your soul, and it's about connecting with your partner and connecting with your life. You can't actually have a great sex life if your life isn't good. You know, you can have pizza sex. What do we call that? You know, it's pizza, so...
Yeah. I'll order this and I'll order that. And I might like this and I might like that.
Well, and there's no such thing as really bad pizza.
Yeah.
So we're going to be exploring basically what Tantra means, what love means, what sex means, and what intimacy means, because they're not all the same thing. So, Craig, you said to me when I met you, teach me to be a man.
So to want to be more of a man. Teach me how to be that.
Right. And what did you mean by that?
Well,
at the time.
I think at that time I felt like there's something of, and you might have heard this cliche bandied about, that there's something of a feminization of our culture in certain areas towards men. And I don't know if I bought into that too much, or it was because I was with one woman for 20 years and I just sort of went along with things, or I don't know how it came, maybe all the above. And I just felt like in my interactions and relations at that time, I was more, I was not attracting women. I was more repelling them at certain times.
Well, weren't you finding the issue that you were the nice guy that had all the women friends?
Exactly.
Everybody wanted to be your friend. And you're a great-looking guy.
Absolutely.
So, I mean,
thank you.
So there's no reason for that other than some type of energetics you must have been putting out.
Exactly.
And what was it that, wow, I'm a man and most men are jerks that just want sex, and so I'm not going to put any sexual vibe out, or what do you think?
I was having all sorts of women want to be my friend.
Well, that's because you're caring. You were coming from your heart, but you weren't leading with, you didn't have any sexual energy backing it up.
Right, exactly.
So you just cut off down there.
Apparently. What do we call that? Sexual wounding or something?
Right,
We're going to hear a little bit about that, aren't we?
Exactly, because almost all of us have sexual wounding of some sort. And it doesn't have to be overt abuse that was caused to you. It can just be comments made to you. It can be being, as a man, men are super sensitive. They're way more sensitive than women are, and they get wounded so much easier, and they don't have a place to deal with it. A woman gets wounded, she talks to her mom, her girlfriends, and it helps. A man gets wounded, he just takes it inside. You get rejected by that first kiss. It's, as simple as that first asking somebody out or that first kiss, and it's just devastating. Some men carry that wound for the rest of their lives. And so, yeah.
I knew I had a problem.
Yeah. And so that's God in the radio station anyway.
Right.
And so yeah, the sexual wounding can cause men to withdraw sexually from being an empowered sexual male. And that doesn't look like some guy standing out there going, "Hey, baby, you don't want to get some of this?"
The hard hat construction. Cliche.
Yeah, they're the softiest of them all, actually.
How about that?
But really, it has to do with more of losing confidence. Men lose sexual confidence very easily. And women, we need to start, stopping this war here. We actually want men to be in their sexual power. It doesn't mean that, they're going to want sex all the time. I mean, they are, but that's okay. Because maybe if we're all doing the same thing and enjoying each other, we're all going to want sex a lot more. That's it. Sex in the afternoon. Oh, no. Here it's starting. So where does this, all of this stuff starts in childhood? And that's another reason I have Craig here today, because Craig is a hypnotherapist. And we are programmed from very early on about what we think and feel, or should feel and think about sex. Today, there are over 40 million sexless couples in the United States. 40 million. And I think those numbers are higher, and I think they're climbing. And I had a thought that, we're role modeled sexless marriages. If you think about it, how, when a kid walks in accidentally on their parents making love, the parents usually freak out and say something like, "Oh my God, no, we were just wrestling. We were just playing."
We don't even like to hear it as adults. Too much information,
That's
you
right,
hear people say, right?
Exactly.
The programming continues.
Exactly. And so we're taught that, sex is something that's just everywhere, but we're not supposed to talk about it. We're certainly not supposed to, talk about it in polite company or something like that. And certainly we don't even want to think that our parents did it. But yet Hollywood producers, we've got sex everywhere. And it looks like all the single people are having sex. But then once you're married, your programming kicks in and sex goes on the back burner. Because that's what our parents did. Or at least we thought if we didn't see it. So can you tell me a little bit about the mind, Craig, your specialty, and how it is, even if you logically know that that's not right, that you actually want to be a sexual being and you crave intimacy and you can't get through that?
Will you make sure and keep me on track with the purpose of our call here? Because I tend to go off in tangents on hypnosis and other areas. But I'll give you the basics, and it applies to everything we do, see, feel, touch, emote. And it comes down to this. We have a conscious mind and we have an unconscious mind. You might have heard it called the subconscious. Subconscious, unconscious, same thing, different spelling. I prefer the term unconscious because I think the prefix sub means lesser or lower in many people's minds. Anyway.
And it's certainly, the unconscious mind certainly rules a lot.
Exactly. And especially when we're talking about bodily functions in the bedroom, outside, living your life, all these different concepts we're going to be learning more about from you. And I can't wait, by the way. I know there's more I don't know yet. Anyway, the conscious mind is what we're all using right now to look, listen, and to learn, understand, reason, reject, judge. It is the captain of our ship. It's what we're using to talk right now, and you folks out there to listen. Now, unconscious mind, on the other hand, runs all of our automatic functions. And it's nothing more than a robot. And here's the thing. Tanya mentioned when we are kids, we get this sexual wounding. Different sorts of messages, circumstances, situations, traumas, dramas, they happen to us. And when we are little kids, we are in what I would call hypnosis, by my definition. And this thing we call hypnosis is nothing more than communicating or learning at the unconscious level, at that part of us. Nobody.
We're sponges, right? I mean,
We are
We're
sponges.
just like this open, completely open
Exactly.
book, just downloading all this information that's being given to us.
Exactly. And many folks who have children or have been around children or have been children, which is...
I think many
is that
folks have
most
been
of us?
children.
Yeah, how about that? You know, I've experienced something similar. If you tell a youngster, a 2-year-old, a toddler, their first time they ever hear a cuss word, and next thing you know, they're at the grocery store repeating it. F word, F word, F word, whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's because there is no filter. There is no blockage. Those things that we say just go right on in. In fact, all parents out there are your children's hypnotherapists. So,
Exactly.
and so it may not be somebody in particular who teaches them something. It could be just a situation or trauma, drama, a sexual wounding, as you mentioned.
So what you're saying is if your parents have this kind of really don't see, don't touch, don't talk about sex, they're downloading information into you that's saying this is something
Absolutely.
that we do not talk about, do, or say, or anything.
And that information, that learning, becomes part of your being. It is lodged into the cell, literally the cellular intelligence of your body. And it will come out at the wrong times in the wrong places in the ways you don't want it to, way out into your future.
Yeah, I mean, when clients come to me and they say, you know, I know that, you know, this issue is not working for me. You know, I understand that I seem to be fighting myself. I call it being in the loop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you consciously, you know that that's not what you want to do, but you keep looping it and looping it and looping it, that's telling me that this is some of your subconscious programming kicking in. And there's nothing you can intellectually do to get over that. Is that true?
Absolutely. We call that, I think basic psychology would say that's just an unresolved issue. It just keeps looping over and over. And the only way to resolve it is to go back into that unconscious mind. There's some other techniques that folks would say, oh, it doesn't involve the unconscious mind or subconscious mind. And I would say everything does ultimately.
Of course.
But it does have to happen at that level because that's where it went in.
We're right now talking to your unconscious mind.
How about that?
So sexual wounding, sexual education, all of that starts, I think, actually, you know, probably before we're born. If you have a couple that is having great lovemaking and great sex while they're pregnant, you know, your fetus is hearing those sounds, is getting those endorphins and all the hormone rushes and that type of thing, probably imprinting a good thing. Now, that'll scare everybody. Now nobody will have sex when they're pregnant. But it is a great thing. And then from the first, I think I can see back to like the first diaper changing. You know, you're changing your baby's diaper, and it's pretty bad, and you get this disgusted look on your face, and you're looking at their genitals while you're doing that. A baby's imprinting not only your energy of how you feel about that, but your facial expression about that part of their body. They don't have an idea. They just see it. They just take it straight on. It's not like they can't judge what it is.
There's
you're
no
doing.
filter. It just goes right on in.
Right. So they're not thinking, oh, I must smell bad. They're just getting this impression right there on their second chakra or their sex center.
I'm exposed, and my mom is giving me a horrible look. Therefore, what she's looking at down there is horrible.
Right.
That's the learning they can get.
Right, exactly. And we don't even think about that when we think about sexual wounding. You know, the first time your little girl touches herself and you're uncomfortable, you don't even have to say anything. You get uncomfortable, they sense that you're uncomfortable. You look different, your body posture is different, and all of a sudden, that's not okay. And it's even more powerful than later on when you're telling them, oh, no, that's fine, that's fine. That initial imprinting is still in there. So our sexual wounding starts for everybody, because people will say to me, I'm not sexually wounded. I don't have any problem with sex. I don't have any problem with that. And I'm like, we all have some issues surrounding this stuff.
And we carry it with us forever, unless we deal with it head on.
Right. So that's one of the areas that I help people with. It's also one of the areas Craig helps people with in related to sexuality and relationships. So.
And I turn all the folks with that area onto you, generally speaking.
It's not because Craig's uncomfortable using the word sex.
We just have an expert here. And
that's right. So with this starting at the beginning, sexual wounding, sexual education, the next thing that I like to tell people is that even if you think that you are sexually educated, most of your sexual education is coming from what I call procreational sex. I mean, basic sex ed in school is just about what? The sperm meets the egg, you put it here, he puts it there, and that's it. And that's mostly what we all learn. Or I don't know, what did your parents tell you about sex, Craig?
My parents told me that you close the door and you be quiet.
Oh, really?
And you go and learn from your health class in high school.
Okay, so they weren't much into talking about
Not
sex.
really.
Okay.
Other than don't get anyone pregnant. I did hear that a number of times.
Did you? Yeah, men hear that quite a bit. Don't get anybody
That
pregnant.
was pretty much it from my parents.
Yeah, so, then you get the sperm, meat, egg talk and stuff, and
Right.
you have the basics of how it all comes together.
Right.
But so, and when you were married for 20 years.
16 and 4 outside of marriage, yes.
Yeah. And how do you describe your sex life?
I remember when you first asked me, and I said, "Oh, it was great." And you started hearing some of the details, and, well, I guess it wasn't so great. But I thought it was.
Poor Craig, I burst his great bubble there. You've had better sex since?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so he's learning. He's been we've been working together for about, a year and a half?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And he told me recently that he learned way more than just being, wanting to be more of a man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Tantra, though Tantra is about a life experience. It's not just about sex. And so I really want people to understand that when we're talking about sex basics, that what I like to do is weave that into the whole tantric concept of it involving your whole life. And we just compartmentalize sex, right? So it's like we have our lives, we have our sex lives. Like they're two separate things. And they're not. They're definitely a part of our life. So let's see.
Can I tell the listeners about a quickie that I want you to fill in?
Oh, yeah,
that
of
will
course,
illustrate that too.
Yes. Jump
When
in.
you first told me, get this, listeners, when Tanya mentioned to me that Disney programs us wrong
Oh, yeah.
for our sex life, please fill us in on that.
Oh, the whole Cinderella thing?
Yeah.
One night I was reading to my daughter.
Disney is the problem.
Disney is ruining America's sex life.
Can we get sued for saying this?
I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. Only if Disney is listening. So, I was reading my daughter Cinderella one night, and here's, Cinderella. She's like this innocent, untouched, pure woman just awaiting for a man to ride down from the mountaintop, sweep her away, make her orgasmic, and her life happily ever after. And we believe that. As women, part of the problem that we're having in sex is that we believe that somehow men are supposed to know it all. And, poor guys, because let me tell you, women's bodies are like the sands of the Sahara. They're ever changing. Even women don't know it all about their own bodies. And so, the myth that some man's going to ride in and make it all better, not only sexually, but our whole lives better, is really destroying things because we have a bubble around us, this fantasy bubble. And the first time we get it disappointed, the bubble breaks. And we harbor that for a really long time. Like, how could you come in and ruin my perfect fantasy that I was having with your reality?
Sounds like a recipe for stress, tension, and anxiety.
Oh, yeah, you think? And what do stress, tension, anxiety do? Cause sexual dysfunction. Oh, amazing. That is an astounding thing.
You mean the answer is not in pills?
Oh, yeah, my other Viagra killing.
We can talk about that later.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. Don't go there.
We'll
Don't
go there later.
Exactly. I have a lot to say about that. I think there's a lot of myths in society today that are ruining our sex lives and our relationships. And we use a lot of catchphrases, and when we use those catchphrases, people don't actually know what they mean, like communication. Ask anybody what makes a good relationship, and they'll say communication. What does that actually mean? Because, people are talking all the time. But I think that there's more to it than just, blah, 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 blah. I'm talking at you, you're talking at me. Deep, authentic communication. You and I had a conversation about this the other day. Men always say to me, women always want me to be honest. Are you crazy? There is no way. Can you imagine me walking down the street with my girlfriend and saying, oh, I'd like to have sex with her, and I'd like to have sex with her, and I'd like to have sex with her. Isn't that honest? The relationship wouldn't last very long, would it?
Yeah, no.
So there's difference between honest communication and authentic communication. I like to divide those up.
I think I need to hear this again.
Do you?
And the
Again?
listeners might want some. What is the difference?
Well, I think authentic communication is dealing with what you feel more than what you want. So really, there's only two ways to feel. I believe. I like to make everything really simple. And you feel afraid, and you feel sad. And afraid is pretty much the biggest one. Most of us, all of our emotions come from feeling fear. And why that has anything to do with sex is because, I mean, how many people are not afraid, really, some consciously somewhere there, about sex, right? We're taught
Right.
to be afraid of it at a very early age.
Yes.
So when you're talking to your partner, you know, your truth, you have a big butt, it's not really conducive to a good relationship.
You think?
Yeah, I'm thinking saying something like, you know, I feel afraid that I'm not going to be attracted to you one day is probably more authentic. Right?
Would you be as bold as to say all or almost all or some huge percent, 99 or more, of all the sexual dysfunction or lack of the ultimate sex life that we all are born with is due to lack of communication?
Well, of course, and education. And of course that is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why they're listening here.
That's right, because they want to be educated.
Yes.
Titillated, educated, and
Yes,
entertained.
Absolutely.
Yeah, education, which we were talking about earlier, definitely is dismal. Who's teaching anybody to have either sex or relationships? Nobody.
Oh, yeah. And I disagree.
No, you're right.
The
You're right.
internet is teaching us
Oh, yeah.
very well.
The internet, Cosmopolitan Magazine.
Exactly.
Okay, so yes, there's a lot of education going on, and there's a lot of education that's not very good going on. And back to that fairy tale myths and how it all's supposed to go. Men believe that orgasm is the key to keeping his woman happy. Did you believe that?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
what you learn.
That as long as she's having hers,
Yeah.
then you can get yours and everybody's happy?
Right.
I call that button-pushing sex. The couples get into that. They learn each other's bodies so well that you hop in bed, you do this, she does that, everybody has their orgasm, all done. Check that box. We are not one of the sexless couples in America.
We're good.
Check. We're okay.
For 3 more days. Or however
days.
long.
The average couple is now having sex, I think, once a month.
Woo.
I know, it's getting less and less. But internet porn, interestingly enough, getting a lot more action.
Yes. The number one moneymaker on the internet.
Yeah, it's interesting. And why is that happening? Once again, lack of education. You know what I wanted to say about that was that whole neuropathway thing with and you can answer this in the hypnotic world, why it is that porn is really ruining relationships as well. Every time, it starts with it's education. Every time some young boy ends up masturbating to something on the internet that's more unreal, he creates neural pathways, right, to his pleasure center that are really intense.
Stimulus response.
Exactly. And eventually he ends up calling me and saying, hey, I'm really in love with this girl, but she doesn't look like what I've been masturbating to for years, so I can't get quite as excited about her. There's a reason for that, right?
Right, absolutely. In our world, we call it anchoring. You have basically anchored the fact that excitement equals this visual. And it's pretty strong. And it goes down to that unconscious. And you have to undo that some way, overcome it. And the thing is, we never know, whenever we get these sexual woundings, this anchoring, all these different things we're talking about, these imprints, we never know when it will sink in and become part of the way we act and behave and relate and have sex or anything. We never know. And so you might as well just figure it's going to happen at any time and take a proactive approach to how you want to live your life, which is why you get back to this is an overall integrated approach, not just how to do stuff in the bedroom.
Right. Because ultimately all the techniques in the world, if you don't know how to connect or reach somebody's soul, don't matter. Because I've been with some great technicians that left me super cold. And I've been with some men that could actually reach my heart and reach my soul that were super hot. So there is a big difference there. Education, I think there's 4 levels of it. I think there's 4 levels of mastery. And the first one is what we've been talking about, and that's the education that we're getting out there, the basic health education, sex education. And it's just basic, hear your body parts, this is what you do. Sophisticated lovers today are thinking they're in level 2, which is more about everybody having an orgasm. And that's where all the products on the internet right now, guaranteed to blow her mind, get this every time, all of that is really, really popular. And it's still leaving people missing something. And that's where I say you're starting to go to level 3, which is where you're getting an idea that there's more to sex than just genital friction. There's more to sex than just orgasm. There's an actual spiritual component to sex. And that doesn't mean you have to believe in God. A spiritual component simply means that you believe in connecting at a level that isn't just physical. You start not compartmentalizing just sex, but actually increasing your heart and mind connection to that. That's where the realm of Tantra starts. And that's where you learn all sorts of those things that you might have heard about, like Sting having 9-hour orgasms.
Oh, now you got our attention.
Now, the average man only has 11 minutes of orgasm a year. Pig has 30 minutes at a time. That's pretty astounding.
All I got to do is oink.
And I don't know that from personal experience because that'd be wrong. But no, all the things you hear about Tantra with the being able to extend your lovemaking, separating orgasm and ejaculation. You know, when I talk about that in my men's classes, they look at me like I'm crazy. Like,
excuse
what?
me?
Yeah, exactly.
Can we repeat that?
Yeah. Actually separating orgasm and ejaculation.
So what you're saying is it is possible to have orgasm without ejaculation?
It is. It is. Very possible.
Now, I've heard this before, but I'm being surprised like it's the first time I've ever heard it because I know how many listeners out there are saying, come on.
You've got to be kidding me. And why would you want to do that?
And why?
Exactly. I'll talk about that when I talk about that on the show.
All right.
And level 4, mastery, is actually when you start to use sex and sex energy for manifesting in your life. For those people that are listening that are into the energetics of life or that believe in manifesting and that type of thing, you can actually use your sexual energy, which is one of the most powerful forces in the planet, to manifest. And not just get rid of your sexual energy, but keep it in your body. Tony Robbins, he's a big one for that, keeping his sexual energy in his body. Who was the Prime Minister of Britain? What's his name? Anybody remember? Blair.
Tony Blair.
Yes.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Tony Blair also is tantric. They also,
really?
He and his wife believe in, using this sexual energy for being dynamic and being creative.
Wow.
Most of us are just trying to get rid of the sexual tension we feel instead of keeping the sexual energy in our
Is there anything wrong with that?
Getting rid of your sexual tension? No, there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
But that's just like...
What are we missing out on?
Tip of the iceberg there. Actually, being energized in your life, not losing sexual drive and sexual stamina, and you're missing a lot. That's a whole...
Tell me more.
A whole topic.
I want to know more.
No, tell me, Craig. You tell me.
I'm learning.
What happened when you all of a sudden got in the flow, when you started moving past just regular sex?
You know, it comes down to sort of, you mentioned being in the flow. I used to talk about it being in the zone when I work with athletes and things. It's all the same. It's just connecting to power I believe that we all have, and we repress it, we push it down, we don't use it, whatever, we don't acknowledge it. And it's, you know, the best thing I can mention is you said manifesting. This means when you say you want something, you want to feel a certain way, you want to have a certain behavior, it becomes true. I can't, it's almost like magic. But I know it's not magic.
It is. It is magic, and that's okay, too.
It was magical the way I slipped into this state in my own mind, and I'm going to prefer to stick with the magic word. I like it.
But
I understand, though, that there was no real magic. It was just a set of steps. It was education, as you talked about. It was some other things. Just breathing, for instance.
Yeah, the breathing thing. When people come to my class and they want to learn to be sexual masters, and all of a sudden the first thing I say is, we're going to start breathing. And they look at me like, what?
Oh, the first time you told me you know what I thought? I thought, Craig, here's the first thing you need to do. You need to breathe. What? I've been breathing since I was... I'm 40 plus, whatever. I have... What? No, you don't breathe. Well, yes, I do. No, you don't breathe. You need to breathe. Like, excuse me again? You know.
Exactly.
I remember putting, okay, whatever I see, I sensed your energy, I sensed your projection. I said, I want it.
I want what you have.
I want it. And I just went with it, put sticky notes everywhere, saying breathe. I teach my clients this now, and it is the fundamentals, foundation of getting in this flow, in the zone. Yeah,
it is. And, you know, breathing itself is a spiritual practice in and of itself. And what breathing, and we're talking about conscious breathing, of course, here. We're not talking just about your in and out breathing that you're doing right now, but complete, full breaths that expand your body. Because we live in two states. We live in expansion or we live in contraction. And great sex is an expansion. And a great life is an expansion. And pain and misery and all the rest of that yucky stuff is in contraction. So, simply put, breathing for expansion, most important. Nobody can become a sexual master without a good breathwork practice. And I know it's really disappointing when people come to me and say, give me the techniques. And I go, all right, let's sit down and breathe.
I'm sure you
like,
do.
Well, you're out of your flipping mind. I'm not paying you to sit here and breathe. But the ones that do it, they get it.
Right.
And it happens fast. That's the one practice that really doesn't take a long time to learn. But it is the fundamental of everything else. Even connecting to your partner. Meeting somebody. If you were to walk up to meet somebody and take their hand and take a moment and take a breath, the impact you would have would be tremendous. We're also running around in such a big hurry. You know, we have drive-by sex, we have drive-by meetings, everything's drive-by, and we're not taking a moment. So, you know, what we're talking about today is all the components of Tantra, which are education, which are learning to connect, energetic components. And, you know, for most people that are listening to this show probably are into the whole energetic thing because they're listening to Contact Talk Radio, of course. And by the way, if you are a caller out there that want to call in and ask anything to do with sex, intimacy, love, Tantra, just feel free to pick up the phone anytime and do that, and we'll answer your question.
Well, let's put the phone number out there, 877-230-3062. Give us a call.
There's that phone number. So the components of Tantra are education, are connection, are breath work, presence. You'll hear that word presence, and people go, well, what do you mean, presence? It's like, well, being present in the moment. Like right now, probably when you're listening, you are thinking about maybe your shopping list and all the other things you need to be doing right now, driving down the freeway or what have you. And that means you're not totally focused 100% on what you're doing. When we're having sex, a lot of the time, especially women, we tend to just not be in the moment. Women have a really hard time with that. Men are usually pretty good about it. They're thinking, my penis, my penis, my penis. Women are thinking, oh man, did I get the laundry done? Did I get that errand? Does my butt look fat like this? You know, is he enjoying himself? All of these things are running through our minds, and therefore we're not really connected to the present moment. And Craig, as a man, you don't suffer from that as a rule, right?
Suffer from what specifically?
Just not being present in the moment of sex.
Oh, never. Not at all.
You're pretty well right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's a practice, though, you know. I still consider myself a beginner learning these things, and it's a never-ending journey.
Do your thoughts ever get in the way of your sexual performance?
You think?
Yeah, well.
Always.
Exactly.
Regularly.
Right.
Often.
It's that much, huh?
I'm getting better. I'm getting better. Thanks to your help. That's why I'm here, to learn more.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Tell me what it's like when we achieve level 4. I can't. It's hard for me to even comprehend.
So, okay, what's in all of this for you? What's in all this of listening to me or coming to take a class from me or any of this? Why would you do it other than a better orgasm? If you're already having orgasm, who cares if it's better?
That would be nice.
Yeah. What's a better orgasm? If you're on a 2 scale right now, how about infinity?
How about the pig 30-minute thing?
Well, yeah, you could do that.
All right.
Sure. But why stop there?
Oh, now we're talking.
Living in orgasmic bliss. We are so dampened down in our bodies and our spirits. We're wandering around pretty well unconscious most of the time. And our capacity for pleasure is infinite, I believe. And so if you take your best orgasm that you've ever had or your best pleasurable experience that you've ever had and compound that even by 100, think about what that might feel like. So level 4 really it's not so much about genitals anymore. Level 4 is about obtaining energetic experiences, and it's about being able to use your body to transport pleasure through your whole body, for one, and then out into the universe. I mean, Tantra originally was created for the masses. It wasn't created for people to sit in caves and not experience anything. It was a spiritual practice designed to help people experience the now and experience touching the hands of God and experience the divine. And by doing that, they used sex was just one of the art forms. In Tantra, only 3% of anything, of all of Tantra has to do with sex. Most of it has to do with learning about the macrocosm, learning about the world and how it pertains to yourself. But
I've experienced some of what you're talking about as a beginner, putting these things into practice. So
it can happen pretty fast if you incorporate the breath work.
Yes.
And that's your transport system is the breath work.
Yes, I joked earlier about being in my head and all that, but And you know what? It's easy. This stuff is not hard. This is not like I got to go home and do study and write books and all this stuff. You just give us the concepts and you adopt it with the intention, and it happens.
Right. And it infiltrates your whole life. I mean, I keep trying to tell people they come to me for sex because sex is on everybody's mind, and quite frankly, very few people are having any great sex. But really, it's a whole life practice. And the more you practice it in your life, the better your sex just gets better. You can't help it. It's not even something you need to obtain. It will just happen. And so level 4 sexual mastery is about basically being in charge of your sexual energy, which is one of the biggest. I mean, it creates life. Sexual energy creates life. Can there be something bigger than that? Probably not. And so being able to live in bliss, living in full arousal, means that you're experiencing everything in life to its fullest. Every smell, every sight, every sound, every touch is exquisite instead of mundane. All of a sudden, washing dishes becomes a fun event. Flower arranging, dancing, being with your kids, because everything can be tantric. Tantra is not just about, we only can be adults doing it. It's a solo practice to start, right? And that's where you started.
Yeah.
You know? So we've got to start with ourselves before even if you have a partner. And I say the place to start is breath work. And I'll devote some part of a different show to that. And so level 4, sexual mastery, living in bliss. Awesome place.
All right, I would like you to speak just for a moment. I would like you to speak for just for a moment to the typical guy out there. I'm going to be the advocate for the guy here, since.
Okay. Since you are one.
Yeah, I did. Hello. Anyway, so many of the typical guys, and I thought this after I got divorced. It is about, and we're programmed for this by the culture, the media, everything, all the messages all around, our buddies, whatever. When you're single, and maybe even if you're in a relationship, it is about going and getting as much as you can.
As much sex.
Yeah, as much.
Right. And
they're not thinking really quality. They're thinking all sex is pizza, like you mentioned earlier.
Exactly.
So how do you get the man... I've just run into this idea before, and I even had it myself, where you just are thinking, there is no bad sex, and let me have it, and when I get it, everything is at 100%, and there's nothing more. How do you break that mold?
And why would you want to?
And why would you want to go beyond that?
Right.
There are so many guys out there that are thinking this way. Go out to the clubs, whatever. Get online, see, and the goal is to go get some.
I mean, part of it is, you're biologically programmed for that, right?
Okay.
I mean, you're biologically programmed to procreate. And that's a huge thing. And so what happened is all of a sudden we started living past 20 years or 30 years.
Right.
And now you need to actually have a relationship, or people actually want to have a relationship. Men are not actually biologically programmed for that very well. So therein lays the problem. It's like, okay, and society is also telling you that, you're not a man or a stud unless you're going out and having sex. Most men I talk to, really, yes, they want to have sex. Yes, they want to get off, which is the big thing. But they also want to be connected to. They want to actually feel something more. And if they ever experience that, it's the men that call me up and say, I had this experience with a woman once that was the most incredible thing I can ever imagine. And I'm like, wow, is she really good in bed? Well, no, it was way more than that. It was like when I was with her, the earth stood still. When I was with her, I could feel everything in my body. It felt like we were breathing together. Our hearts were beating at the same time. And sex just was amazing.
Now, I'm sure there's a lot of women listening to this who are absolutely loving everything you're saying. And at the same time, they're thinking to themselves, and I know you've run into these in your classes and workshops, how in the world do I get my husband or my partner to buy into this?
Well, it's not really that difficult to get men to buy into this, really. Because deep down we all want the same thing. Every single one of us wants to feel appreciated, loved, and connected in some way. Even those diehard bachelors out there, they're like, no, give me the Playboy, bunnies, and I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life. Even they actually want to be loved and appreciated. Yeah, it's just fear keeping them from it. Those men can be a lot more wounded than we might think. So as women, we're actually men's healers. And as I said earlier in the show, men are actually more sensitive than women, and men don't let go of wounding as easily as women. And so men are also told that the only thing they're good for is, being sexual like that, that they're not good at being tender, that they're not good. Women want men that are soft and tender and sensitive, and yet when they are, we flay them alive. So there's some accountability on women's issues here. And men love my classes because of this. It's like, women, ladies, here's the deal. First of all, we need to be accountable for our own bodies, which means we actually have to know our bodies. We have to be our best lovers before we can ever expect a man to know what to do with us. And laying around waiting for some man to be magic to you and then thinking that's the relationship that you should have is the wrong way to do it. A simple thing that I do if you're in a relationship right now that could change your relationship this minute, today, if you implement this, is the greeting of gratitude. And when whoever comes home, like if it's the woman, typically a lot of the women are at home, not so much anymore, but whoever's at home first, when your partner comes home, and especially I want you to do this if you're a woman and your man's coming home from work or whatever he's doing, stop everything you're doing and walk to the door. Take his hands, look him in the eye, take a deep breath, look right at him, and have some phrase. It's got to be real, not lying, but some phrase of gratitude, such as, I'm so grateful for how hard you go out and work for our family every day. And a hug and a kiss. And I have men crying in class when I do this demonstration. And I'm not even doing it for them. And yet they're crying in class because men don't feel that there's gratitude given to them today. Most men. Most men feel like women are disappointed in them chronically. And it starts from our mothers. Little boys, they try to do the job. Mom wants them to clean up the mess. And maybe they don't do it as fast as their mother needs them to do it because women are stressed out trying to raise kids or whatever. And so right then, when the woman is disappointed and she says, never mind, I'll do it myself, right then is one of the most critical woundings that a man faces. And he carries that through every relationship. And so I feel like men are constantly trying to play catch up, to be successful. How can I be successful in my relationship when I'm constantly disappointing her? And that leads in the sex arena. That's sexual too then. How can I totally please her? I never know if I really am. Would you think?
Absolutely. I do want to ask you one thing. All these concepts, and you're going to teach a lot more about them, and the things we've mentioned so far, do they apply to same-sex partnerships just the same? And how do we change the language from any...
Yeah, I teach in a hetero format, though, quite frankly. This applies to everybody. It applies to how you treat your kids. It applies to how you treat your coworkers, your friends, or anything. You and I are friends, and we're tantric friends, right?
Right.
That's the whole point. Tantra is not just about sex. So these concepts of love, gratitude, presence, education, they're about everything. And that's why they can't help but change your life. So, yes, definitely.
So
use it however you need to use it.
All right. So when if there's same-sex partnerships listening out there, they can just change the words that
change the words to how you want it to be. If you want a tantric relationship with your dog, as long as you keep the sex out of it, that's fine. At least in my book, anyway. Yeah. So when I came in today and I was saying, okay, here we are. This is so exciting. On the radio. What do I want to share with people? I think people just need information out there, and they need sexual information delivered in a way that makes sense and not in a way that makes them unsuccessful all the time. And the being successful, super critical. We as people don't help our friends and our relationships be successful with us. It's like we're all supposed to guess. That's the whole Cinderella thing.
Missing communication.
Right. Well, people just know. My boyfriend was funny yesterday. He said something like, "So sometimes I just need to feel. I need to feel more appreciated." And I said, "Great. Just tell me. I'm happy to appreciate you." And he goes, "Yeah, but if I tell you, then it's not really the same thing, is it?"
Oh, gosh. You're bringing me back to some counseling sessions many years ago.
Right, but it's true that in this lifetime, we tend to feel like if we have to tell somebody what we need, then we're worried it's not authentic.
Right.
Right?
Can you not tell when someone's authentic, whether or not you told them or not? Does that make sense?
Well, that comes down to trusting yourself or understanding yourself enough. But, is there anything wrong with actually saying, what do I need?
Right. And if the person answers, you can tell whether they're authentic, whether they meant it or not. Yes, you can also tell if they're just saying it by remote because you asked him to. You can tell, right?
So, ladies, the next time you feel like you need to ask your man, does my butt look fat in these jeans? That's not really what you want to know, is it? That's not a good question to ask. And we want to talk about...
And how would the man answer that?
Are you kidding? Most men, like, oh my God, if they hear that question, they want to run.
Absolutely, and I heard it.
Did you hear it?
I heard it many times.
Oh my God, what did you say?
How much were they?
Have you heard that comment too?
No, I may have heard it once or twice.
Only once or twice.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember what I said, but I know it got me in trouble. But today I would say the opposite of what you just mentioned. I would say, now, is that really what you want to know? And I think you just want to know that I'm still attracted to you and love you. And the answer to that is yes.
See, there you go. There's what some Tantra training will do for you.
Yeah.
All the women are going to be saying, oh, yeah, let's talk to him. Yes, we are scared. And that's what I come back to, the whole thing about being scared. And if you're scared about anything about sex out there and you're listening, is anybody out there listening, call us. Tell us what your big sexual fear is. For women, it's about not being attractive enough. I mean, that tends to be one of those things that is plaguing women everywhere. I can have the most beautiful woman in my class, and she'll say, I don't feel attractive.
That shocked me when I saw some of that.
I know. I told you it would happen, and there it was. And all the men in the class are looking at this woman like, are you insane?
Right.
And all the women are looking at the woman going, are you crazy?
Right.
And yet, there it is. Most women feel unattractive. And I think we're societally programmed to feel unattractive no matter what we look like. And I tell ladies, look, you got to take this to heart. If a man is with you, it's a good chance he's attracted to you. Generally, men don't hang out with women or have sex with women, or unless it's 1 o'clock in the morning at a bar. Men want to be attracted to the person they're with. That's one of the reasons they pick you. So it's completely disrespectful when a man tells you he thinks you're attractive, your partner tells you he thinks you're attractive, and you diss him. And all men can probably remember this, saying, oh, I think you're really sexy. And what does the woman say?
Oh, no, they just push it off.
Right. And after a while of saying that and getting that kind of reaction, what do?
Yeah, you stop doing it. You
Right.
start giving them the compliments.
Right. Because why would you do that? You're being disrespected. I tell ladies, you're disrespecting a man every single time you tell him he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right.
Because that's what you're saying. You're saying, I don't think you know what you're talking about.
Right.
The ingredients in relationships, this whole communication thing, it goes deeper than communication because that's just a word. It's how we communicate what we're talking about. Men need to be trusted and women need to be adored. And that's a pretty big thing if you think about that.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
when I say that men need to be trusted and women need to be adored, it goes as simply as the whole thing where the man just gave you a compliment and then you blew him off. You're saying that you don't actually trust that he knows what he's talking about. So I think that that's a pretty big thing. And for women to be adored, what does that look like? Here's something you can take home today as well. In relationship, we don't ask for what we want because most of the time we don't even know what we want. Whether it's sex, how many men ask women, what would you like me to do? And women go, oh, I don't know. Or it's fine. Whatever you're doing is fine. That's got to be the worst comment on the planet.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's okay. Asking for what you need can be really difficult. And one of the things that you can actually do is this exercise. If you sit down with your partner or yourself, because you should probably know what you need before you even have a partnership with somebody else, because it makes it a little easier that way, is you can write down a sentence that says, I feel adored when, and finish that sentence. I feel sexy when, I feel loved when. And a man can say, I feel trusted when. And when do you feel trusted, Craig?
I feel trusted when I can tell a partner that I'm going out with a female friend and they go, fine.
So that's and what else? I mean, give me some more, because that's like, wow, that's
when
a big one. But it's like,
when they trust me with intimate thoughts.
okay, so when a woman shares
That
her
I
thoughts
won't
with you.
slam it back in some other way in the future.
Okay.
I like to, I'm a visual. Excuse me. Hello, I'm an audio. Most of us have a tendency towards one representational system where we bring in information, and I tend towards the audio. So I want to hear and I want to talk. Other people want to see or be shown. Other people, they'll feel trusted with, or they'll feel loved with hugs and touch.
So when do you feel loved?
I feel loved when I hear it.
When somebody says I love you.
Yeah.
Or says they're grateful.
More than just those words.
But you want to hear it.
I want to hear it. I want to hear the voice.
One of the men in my classes, when I did this in my couples intimacy class, he actually felt loved when he found folded shirts in his drawer. And, obviously that's programming from when he was a kid.
Sure.
But, how easy to be successful to make him feel loved if you just go fold some shirts and put them in his drawer.
Right.
Say, honey, open your drawer.
Right. So, Tanya, before we get too far into this, you're going to be teaching a lot of things, and you could never teach everything you know in even this short today's talk or in future talks. So folks need to be connected to you somehow. And how might they do that?
Well, I do have a website, funnily enough, and it's www.learningtantra.com, which does have all my website information and more articles and a way to follow this as far as the archives as well.
And are you doing any live workshops?
I am. I've got a bunch of stuff coming up in Vancouver, just about to put my Seattle schedule together, and so I'm around and I do private work as well. And, obviously, the thing about Tantra is it's a feel experience thing. So you can listen to me all day long on the radio and until you get to actually experience it, which happens really great one-on-one or in classes, it's a little bit hard to grasp. So I would say get to the website, get to some classes.
I also noticed you give away a free ebook on there. What's that all about?
Ah, yes, my Tantra ebook. It's just basically just helping to dispel some of the myths that we've been talking about, societal myths, and why our thinking is so erroneous surrounding sex.
Some people say it's pretty provocative in your face.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty provocative in your face. so that might explain that. Yes, I've had some people say, well, how come, if Tantra's all spiritual and enlightened and all of these type of things, how come you teach, you tend to be more like Tony Robbins or speaking like a rock star out there in everybody's faces? What's up with that? Why are you like that? And I believe that life is about texture. Life is not about a flat line. All those things that we're trying to achieve, some major balance that looks flat, I think you're going to achieve that when you're dead. Then you'll be perfectly flatlined and balanced.
You mean the striving for perfection is no good?
Oh, no, it's bunk. Yeah, you'll be perfectly dead one day. You can just be perfect then. No. Not perfect in relationships, not perfect in sex, not perfect in life. That's just a waste of time. I mean, the whole thing about life is its texture. Because having a great relationship doesn't mean you never have an issue. Having a great sex life doesn't mean that every time you have sex, it's going to be this amazing, magical experience. That's the whole point about living in the moment, experiencing everything as it is right then. Remember when you talked and you said something to me about, well, do I have to be like in love all the time? In this space of love all the time.
Right.
And how my students are shocked in class sometimes when I say, I'm really angry at so-and-so. Or, I have a certain person in my life that I practice my enjoyment of anger on. And I don't think that we're trying to attain any flatline emotion, any flatline feeling, anything like that. I think what we're trying to do with Tantra and what I'm teaching is to experience what's happening in life. You're in a traffic jam. It's a bummer. You can go to your breath, first of all, and it's a physiological thing. Actually relax yourself and be fine. Or you can choose to experience that as being really angry. I choose to experience all of life as whatever the emotion that I'm in at the time and ride with that. So now that doesn't mean that I'm saying you should go out and be angry at people, for sure. But you need to understand your true emotion. And that's part of good communication, too. It's an and world, right?
Absolutely.
You can be frustrated and still love somebody.
And still do whatever you want to do, feel the way you want to feel, and be the person you want to be.
So, Craig, you've been studying with me for about a year and a half.
Right.
And you say there's more?
Well, I'm just getting tastes of some of this higher things you've been talking about. I'm still perfecting the lower levels, and I'm very, very glad for the benefits so far. All I can say to the listeners is get hooked up to her website at learningtantra.com. Read her emails. Keep in touch here with this radio program she's got going. and follow me. And by the way, it's okay if I mention my website?
Of course.
Oh,
Craig
thank
is
you.
my good friend, and he's awesome at what he does.
My website is hypnosiswest.com.
And you'll hear more of Craig. I have a blog that Craig ends up being on because he's my good friend and my technology buddy. He's the one that helped me figure out how to build a website. And you're going to hear more about Tantra. You're going to hear more about love. You're going to hear more about sex.
You're going to have some amazing guests, aren't you?
I am. I've got some great guests that are going to be coming on in the future. I've got a guy named Jason from Lifestyle Transformations up in Vancouver.
Men's dating coach.
He is a men's dating coach. I've got Catherine Scott, who is the dating coach here in Washington and all over. I've got a woman named Elena, who is works as a director for the Sex Positive Culture Center, who is awesome. And anyway, it was awesome to be here today. I'm really enjoying doing this, and I'm looking forward to getting in some calls and seeing what you guys all have to say. And go out and be super amazing and get to my website today.
LearningTantra.com.